Hey, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. I'm Dr. Ariel Hammond, and this is the Enrichment Entrepreneur, a podcast for current and aspiring entrepreneurs who are in the business of helping kids thrive. We're talking after-school programs, summer camps, tutoring, enrichment, the people and places that show up for kids outside the classroom. I'm still building right alongside you, and that's exactly why we're here, to learn, grow, and figure this out together.
Let's go!
Hi, welcome back to the Enrichment Entrepreneur. I'm your host, Ariel, and I have the privilege of interviewing Dan VanDetta. He operates Five Rings Jiu Jitsu, a gym, and they also operate programs in schools throughout the community. So to start off, Dan, before you tell us a bit more about you and your day-to-day, I'd like to start with a question. So for the listeners, what's something about running a youth enrichment business, whether inside schools or inside your own facility, that took you years to figure out that you wish someone had just told you on day one?
First of all, thanks for having me, but I want to answer that as directly as I can, which is just I wish somebody had looked me in the eyes and said, not everyone is going to be honest with you. You need to do your due diligence. You need to make sure things are in writing, and you need to gather as much information about the endeavor that you're trying to put your effort into before you put the effort in.
Thank you, Dan. So now we can go to our introduction. So can you tell us a bit more about yourself? What has your journey been before you got into this type of business and as you've worked in it? And yeah, tell us more about you.
Sure. So my name is Dan VanDetta. I am a lifelong educator. I started when I was 15 as a camp counselor and a counselor in other capacities. I got my master's degree in education and then became an elementary school teacher in Southern California for the Los Angeles Unified School District for about a decade. When I moved to Oregon, I did some substitute teaching in rural Oregon for about a year and a half. And then I discovered the practice of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Found the community of Five Rings and got some opportunities to make a career shift into coaching both youth and adults in something that I was really passionate about. The opportunities that presented themselves over time to reach out into the community beyond the academy's walls have been many and fruitful. Lots of frustrations along the way, but also it has helped me step away from many of the negatives that I found within the public education system. Working for a private business obviously has its perks, as well as its downfalls from time to time. But yeah, that's kind of how I've ended up here. I've been, lucky enough to do what I'm doing for almost 17 years now, and specifically doing the after-school programming for over a decade.
Thank you. So how did you end up building youth programs inside of a martial arts gym? What was the pull towards working with kids specifically?
Yeah, again, for lack of a better way to put it, that's where the bread gets buttered. So we were able to, increase our membership. We didn't just double it, we tripled it because we started a youth program, and it is 2/3 of our active business at the moment. And that's just in the brick-and-mortar section. As far as like the school outreach, that has been a funnel mostly for bringing kids in the community to the main academy. And, I think that answers that in a nutshell.
And so outside of the brick and mortar, what types of programs do you all provide for kids in the community?
So we run an after-school program at a local private school, and we are trying to expand to more of those types of programs. We also have a homeschool charter school program that we run, and that's at the academy, but it's separate from the regular youth program. And right now, that's the entirety of what we have going. We occasionally will do festivals to kind of demonstrate and bring people, raise awareness of the program. And we've done some in-school celebration type demonstration stuff where many of our kids, our participants, go to school. So we'll look for opportunities in those ways.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. In your experience, how is working with children different from working with the adult participants that you serve?
Yeah, working with kids, it becomes less about the specifics about technical martial arts instruction and more about how to help these kids be better humans, better citizens, better partners in their neighborhoods. growing into and maturing, dealing with adversity. It's one of the big things I love about using Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a conduit, as a medium, is that built in to the practice are opportunities for talking about things like perseverance and grit, picking yourself up when things don't go your way. Those are the primary differences. I mean, kids, it's about their development and it's less about the performance or, what can they do at the end of it. It's really about the journey. And I can say that that's true for adults too, but you get to lean harder into the specifics of techniques and things like that with the adults.
That makes sense. So with children, there's more of that whole child development and character building that takes place as well.
That's interesting that you use that term because we describe our youth academy as a school for building good character.
So you're operating in very different environments inside your own gym and also inside schools. What does your role involve that people on the outside would never guess?
Oh man, just like any educator can relate to this, is that you're so much more than a teacher. Within the academy specifically, sometimes you're a nurse, sometimes you're a social worker, sometimes you're a counselor, and oftentimes those things get missed when I'm in the for me specifically. I'm often reminded of how often I fill the role of positive male role model for many of these kids that I work with. And that shows up particularly in the after school extension because a lot of those kids aren't already enrolled in a sport or something else where they get connected to someone outside of their family in a meaningful way. So having a coach, having someone that they see at least once a week on a regular basis that is demonstrating a high level of maturity and making good decisions and just representing humanity in a positive way, I think is really.
What do you see as the best part of offering the specific types of programs that you offer to the community?
It's such a great combination of athleticism and character building. It is so much of the coaching element. The reason why people coach is they want to be a positive impact on the future of the next generation. And Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu offers all of that. Plus, like those things I was talking about, the opportunities to really lean into what to do when you're faced with a challenge. Do you run away? Do you stand up and confront it? You get to have conversations about boundary setting and what that means for each individual kid. And on top of that, because of it's not a team sport necessarily, but you do have teammates. You can't do jiu-jitsu by yourself. You must have a partner at the bare minimum, and having many partners is going to make it even more impactful and more positive. So many reasons. I feel like I could talk for hours about that piece of it.
Thank you. So families who come into your facility, they choose you directly versus the families who access your programs from a school. How is that relationship with the families who come into the gym? How is that different from the relationship with families whose kids find you through a school?
So the primary difference is the type of programming that they receive. Because they're plugging into an after school program with, we have to have safety concerns. We don't have the same environment with a fully matted out room. So we have to take into account that they're kind of getting the youth program light. It's meant to be an introduction that allows them to explore and be exposed to something they want to pursue further by becoming members at the academy. But another piece that stands out to me is how often these kids are surprised and the parents are surprised by, they signed up thinking they were getting one thing, like they think it's karate or they think it's taekwondo, and we don't do that, right? They're not learning how to kick and punch and break boards. We're teaching them how to grapple with each other and how to, extend joints the wrong direction. So it's a very different thing. So we see a lot of like educational pieces, a lot of broadening of horizons. And occasionally we also get folks that are like, well, that's not what I signed up for, and get some pushback in that way. Whereas if they come to the main academy, there's generally a more nuanced perception of what we do, and they understand a little bit better of what they're getting into.
So since the types of programs that you offer are more specialized and less common, how do you educate the customer so that they become familiar enough to purchase the programs, or sometimes they thought it was one thing and now it's another. How do you what's your take on customer education?
So that's really evolved over time. We're lucky enough to have been in the same location at this private school for, again, over a decade. So now so much of that work is done word of mouth, kids talking to other kids and parents talking to other parents. Initially, it really was about how do we preview? So we send out emails letting parents know what to expect, making sure that the on-ramp for the first few classes is pretty gentle so that they get to ease into things that they may not be super comfortable with, being in proximity to other students, that human contact, which they may not be getting in other places. And then the follow-up has also been really important. How do we summarize the kids' experience? Do we do a demonstration at the end where the parents get to come in and watch and see the skills that the kids have acquired? So we tried lots of different things in that arena.
What have you found that works really well? Like the demonstration, does that have the wow factor for parents? What do
Absolutely.
you
That
like?
that
Okay.
that combined with, we started just recently, this is a new thing for us. We started doing appreciation events at the end of each semester where we invite the parents and the kids to come to the academy and just, kind of have an end of semester party. The kids get to be on the mats, they do activities with me, and then the owner of the gym kind of does like a wine and cheese party for the parents. And that kind of thing has offered opportunities for the parents to ask more questions and get more information. And it also provides a really convenient on-ramp if they want the kids to continue training.
That's smart. That's a way to continue the relationship with families, but in a way that's not just, hey, buy this, you bought that, so now buy this. It's in a way that builds a long-term relationship and offers them value first and foremost, and then that can lead into continuing the programming and the learning through your brick and mortar institution. So that makes a lot of sense. It's a human-based approach. How do you find success with community awareness and partnership? So a lot of brick and mortar organizations are making a commitment to, we are in this community, we want to be here for the long term. What success have you found in being um, proactively and positively partnered in the local community?
I would put that pretty firmly in a category of as an area of growth for us. We haven't had a lot of success outside of the limited programming we get to do at this one private school. I've been reaching out for several years now, trying to grow that aspect, as well as looking for opportunities to participate in things as simple as like the local community parades or, something at a farmer's market, or just ways to get ourselves out in front. We have had some successful fundraising events, where we choose a cause that seems important to the local community and we try to raise money for that. And that's done a little bit, but we rarely see a big uptick in enrollments or even interest after those. It just feels like we're doing something good just because, and we're not opposed to that. Yeah, I see. Like, I'm actually excited to hear what other guests on your podcast may have to say about that.
Quick break. I'm building NROPS, an all-in-one operations platform built specifically for kids enrichment, entrepreneurs, and operators. I built it because I needed it. Go to getenrops.com to learn more and get on the list. Okay, back to the episode. So now I want to talk a little bit more about like staffing and hiring. So you've been very intentional about who you bring in to work with your students, whether they're children or adults. What does the ideal, do you call them instructors?
Yeah, the coaches.
The ideal coach, what does that person look like?
Well, they come in so many different forms. We're less concerned about their backgrounds and their specific expertise. Like, they don't need to have the content knowledge. They need to have the temperament and the capacity to build rapport with the kids, because the rest can come as they go. So when we interview, we first and foremost look in-house. We will want people who are already aligned with the Five Rings vision, particularly when it comes to working with kids. We are very much concerned with treating each child with respect and allowing them to grow at their pace and on their terms. So when we interview, those are some of the first questions we ask. So whether or not they have a formal education in education, we are more interested in our read on that person. And we do a probationary period, check all the boxes before we allow them to get in front of a class.
And do you have any tips for others out there who want to continually develop their coaches over time? What have you found works best, and maybe what are some things that don't work as well?
Yeah. So consistent opportunities to grow and learn while they're working, right? So they, starting them off with the opportunities to observe, moving them into small group instruction, and then assistant coaching for the whole class, and then eventually giving them opportunities to lead different parts of the class before taking on the responsibility of leading the class. That's number one. That process has been very successful for us. Two is allowing them to feel invested in both the content. So getting them committed and involved in the curriculum development, and then giving them some ownership of different parts of the program. All of those things have led to an increased level of passion and the way that they show up for the kids. Because if they feel like they're a part of it, they're going to give more of themselves. And we've definitely seen that. As far as the challenges, and it is hard when you have such a specific niche that you're trying to communicate to children to find people who are kind of qualified out of the gate, which is why we have invested so much energy into that staff development piece so that we don't have to start with a fully formed professional on the hire, that we can build those people relatively quickly into people that bring value to the program.
What's the hardest part of training someone to work with kids if they've never done it before?
We've never tried to do that. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right.
I
You
mean,
don't want to take that on. Yeah. So
well,
they should have worked with kids before if they're going to be
I've done some of
successful.
that work outside of jujitsu. I was a master teacher when I was in elementary school, and if people get to a certain space in their life without having interacted with kids in meaningful ways, it is really challenging to get them to a space where they understand the compassion and kindness and patience that's needed to work. Like quite often what happens when you take a candidate without that background and you put them in it, they suddenly realize just how challenging it is. That it is. I think the misconceptions about education are rampant in regular society.
Yeah. So that's a good tip. A person hasn't worked with children in meaningful ways thus far, then they might get into it and find that they don't like it. So, to the extent possible, if we can hire those who have already had those experiences and they know based on their experience that they really do like working with children and they like teaching children, then that's something proactively we can do in our screening that will put the odds in our favor that our coaches and instructors will last longer and stay with us for a longer period of time, and that they'll actually enjoy their work.
Right.
We want this to be satisfying for everyone involved, including and especially the instructors and coaches.
Yeah, that's the balance, right? In my mind, is the finding you don't want to limit yourself so much to an expert in your field who is already outstanding and has years of experience working with kids, because that creates a very, very tiny hiring. At the same time, you don't want it to be so broad that you're going to get someone that quits on day one when they realize just how hard it is. So yes, I agree very much.
What's something that you screen for that no job posting will tell you to look for?
The way that they communicate in person, getting an opportunity to see them be on the mats with a group of kids, just having a conversation with a single child, seeing their temperament and their tone. Do they understand the basics kind of naturally, or do they have a lot of education that needs to go into simple things like being willing to get down on a kid's level, being able to, listen and really hear what the child is trying to communicate. Those kind of things I think are super important that you aren't going to get from a resume.
Thank you. So now thinking for maybe someone wanting to get started before they take the big leap, based on your experience, what is a really challenging part of running this type of business that you wouldn't think from the outside is a thing?
I think the logistics can initially feel like they're going to be simple. Everything's going to fall into place right away. And I think approaching, especially the implementation part, with a lot of patience and self-kindness, because you're going to mess up. There's going to be a lot of things that go at least a little bit off from plan. So recognizing that success doesn't have to be measured in everything going perfectly. It's just being able to get to the next week and the week after that, and then the week after that. Particularly, again, with these programs that are outside of your brick and mortar business, they're going to look and feel different, and it's going your comfort. You're going to be outside of your comfort zone at least for the first little while.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. And my next question is, we just spoke about the challenges that an aspiring enrichment entrepreneur, specifically in the martial arts category, might anticipate, the logistics and the operations challenges there, and to be gentle with themselves as they navigate and try to figure it out. If there was one tip or piece of advice that you could give that person that's just about to start, what would that be?
Is build strong relationships with an S, with the people that you have to navigate contractual things and then the day-to-day operations of the program. Having someone you can trust, at least one person, but multiple people to fall back on, I think is super important. Going back to the very first thing I said, someone that's going to be able to look you in the eyes when things are going not great is pretty important.
Yeah, this industry is surprisingly isolated. I've noticed that operators rarely talk to each other. Why do you think that is, and what do you think it costs people?
This is something we deal with all the time in the martial arts community. And I think many people in the athletic world would be able to relate to what I'm about to say, is that far too often we see each other as competition, when reality is like we're competing with the couch, we're competing with screens, we're competing with inactivity. We're not competing with each other. The pool is an ocean that we all get to fish in. And if we're supportive of each other, we increase our quality of the equipment that we have to go fishing. So that I think is the hardest part, is we need to not see each other as rivals. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. Even in just enrichment in general, I always think our biggest competition is like not one another, but a busy family's calendar, their schedule. They have so much to do. They could want to do 5 different enrichment activities at the same time, but their bandwidth is so limited. And I speak for myself there. We have a couple of enrichment things that we have our kids in, and I want to do more, but the bandwidth just isn't there. So, yeah, and the opportunities there's enough for everyone, like you said. And if we can work with one another, and support each other in ways that don't take opportunities away from what we're doing, then why not do that? I think we all learn and grow and can prosper together. And we're all better for it.
Yeah, working from a place of knowledge and information, right? Like
Yeah.
if we can share best known methods, like it's going to raise the quality of product that we're all giving to the communities that we're trying to
Mhm.
serve, and that allows us, a greater negotiating power. It allows
Mhm.
us, again, a different type of community.
Mhm. Yeah, especially if we're in really niche areas where just someone engaging in a program like ours can create a future customer in the future for us, because we're battling a lack of knowledge about what even exists. So, especially
Yes.
those of us in very niche areas, the more success that someone has providing very similar services anywhere across the country, that helps us as a collective in that specific area as well.
Yeah, without blowing too much sunshine, even my just a limited interactions with you up to this point have opened my eyes to what I was
Mm.
missing. So I'm so grateful that you're putting this podcast together. I think it's going to be a great resource for me personally, and also
Mhm.
for other people in my position.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's the
Yeah,
goal.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what's next for you in Five Rings? What are your goals for this year, and what are your goals for yourself in Five Rings in the long term?
Yeah, short term, I just launched an internal youth program extension. We're starting a youth fitness program within the academy. And I want to see, I'm really leaning into the process of making that happen to see how I can try kind of translate that to external offerings. Um, Ideally, for me personally, I would be able to step away from the main academy and focus entirely on after school extension programs and other opportunities like that, because having multiple funnels, both in the intermediate and long term, is going to pay off for the main academy in a huge way over time. So I'm really trying to tackle and wrap my head around proper marketing, getting my foot in the door in different places, because that's been a real challenge so far. I've been trying to use some of the new AI tools, to try to help me, find the right people to contact or the best times and the best messaging to get people to respond. So I'm sure your listeners are going to be able to relate. It's almost like applying for jobs these days. It's like you send out 400 pieces of communication and you're lucky if you get 3 people that even respond to say, no, thank you.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted to touch base on before we close this out.
Mhm.
You have a previous career as an educator, and I often think, and as do I started my career as an elementary school teacher and then a principal K through 12. And there have been many ways that that experience has been so beneficial for me as I build my business and as I hire and train and support instructors and work with families and children. I think there are many educators who in the future, they may want to turn their passion into a business. For those who come from education and they're considering making that transition into the youth enrichment space, what specific advice do you have for them?
Follow your passion. So think about all the ways in which you may have been frustrated or stymied in your goals because of the way that our education system is structured, and lean into the freedom, lean into the opportunities to create and do meaningful outreach about something that you're passionate about.
Yeah, and I'll add a couple to that. One, for those who come from education and educational leadership, just put in regular intervals where you can check yourself or if you're recreating school. And school has its purpose, but enrichment is not that. And it can be maybe the best parts of that, but you don't want to recreate your past job. And then the programs start to feel more like an obligation to kids and not fun. You don't want to lose that particular value of being that out of school experience for kids where they do get to move around a bit more and laugh loudly and just be more fully in the joy of learning. We
That
just want to be aware of that. Something I did starting off, I really value rigor. And as a parent, I wanted to make sure that if I was selling programs and services to other parents, that they got the most rigorous outcomes for their children and that we would do school, but like even better, and it would be fun. And sometimes something's got to give there. If rigor is the first priority and joy, engagement comes second, then kids can lose that desire to want to stay after school or give up more of their school break or go to a workshop on the weekend because it does feel like school. So parents want certain outcomes. They want to know that their kids are learning something that is valuable outside of what they get in the normal school day and school year. But they also want their kids to be having fun. They want the joy of learning. And the children want and need that as well. So that would be a tip that I would give to an educator considering making that jump. And then a practical tip would be to see what people would actually pay for. And you can start that while you're teaching, while you're a counselor, while you're an instructional aide, while you're a vice principal somewhere. You have your weekends, you have school breaks free. I think that is such a huge benefit that we have where you can test out if you want to teach guitar full time, start with on school breaks, having workshops and seminars, lessons in the evenings. School gets out for us pretty early. So we do have a bit more flexibility and opportunity there to begin to put out whatever services we want to become our next thing. Just start with what we have now and the time and resources that we have, and just grow from there.
Yeah,
So,
I agree so wholeheartedly with everything you just said. Wonderful.
yeah. So Dan, where can people find you if they want to connect or learn more?
So the easiest way is to go to our website. It's the number 5rjj.com. And all of our contact information and our address for our physical location is there. People can feel free to stop by, reach out to me directly. I'm the one that answers the phones.
And that information will be in the show notes. So thank you so much, Dan. It was a pleasure learning from you. And please learn more about Five Rings. You can visit the website in the show notes. And we look forward to following your journey, Dan. Thank you so much. And one more thing. Remember, I'm building NROPS, finally, an all-in-one platform built specifically for kids, enrichment, entrepreneurs, and operators. We're talking everything all in the same place. Finally, from scheduling to instructor management to partner and parent communication to onboarding and registration, all of it. I built it because we need it. So go to getinrops.com to get on the list. See you next episode. And that's a wrap. Know someone who needs to hear this episode? Share it because
Sharing is caring.
if this episode earned it, give us all the stars in a review on whatever platform you're listening on, because it helps other enrichment entrepreneurs find this show. Got a question or a story worth telling? Head to enrichmententrepreneur.com. You can submit your questions, apply to be a guest, and access resources to help you launch and grow your business. Again, that's enrichmententrepreneur.com.
Until next time, keep learning, keep building.